Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think definitely if you're doing that, and you realize like I've just took a bunch of shitty trades today. I guess I think it's a good idea to ask why and try and fill that void a little bit, or be more proactive and ask why you're taking the trade before you take every trade that day. And look, like you don't have to do it all the time. You're never going to do it all the time, but at least do it once a week when you notice you're in that cycle and break the cycle.
Yeah,
just at least do it once for one day. Yeah. And I'm probably going to write it on my wall after this.
Good.
What is the reason? Why are you doing this?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Steady Trade podcast. This is a mini series that Stephen Johnson and Ann Curtin, are putting together for you. Almost 2 years ago, Stephen Johnson and I did a similar 4-part series. So if you haven't seen that one, you should check it out. It's probably 2020.
20, yeah.
2019, maybe. It's a little bit far back. But this series is we just did one on trigger happy versus gun shy. So you should check that out. They're about 20 to 30 minutes long. Today, we're going to talk about overtrading to stay stimulated and the pitfalls that come with it. I'm going to riff a little bit about how I think that's indicative of needs not being met or maybe an addiction to doing versus being. And Stephen is going to give us the jewels that Stephen always does. How are you today, Stephen? How are you today?
Good. Pretty good. And yeah, it's an interesting topic. There's a lot of times, traders will use the term punt. There's a lot of times I'll punt a stock, punt stocks, lose $300, lose $400, and I'll just think, well, that was silly, but doesn't matter. And again, it comes from being numb to money. If you know that you can make it back in one half of a good trade, or one good trade will make it back times 2, times 3, times 4. You'll get complacent and sometimes punt stocks, and you'll lose $400 just out of boredom. Yeah. But you could, if you looked in the real world, $400 goes fairly far. It can go far, further than 2 seconds of fun. Punting a stock that you lost on, and then it's like, I wonder what it's like. It's like you do something, happens really quick, you get a really good high, get excited. It's like, I don't want to say it's like crack cocaine, because I've never done crack cocaine before. Right. But it's like you'll do it. It's dopamine. You'll get the rush. High. Yeah. Then you'll be like, wish I didn't spend that $300. It's pretty expensive for that high. Do you know what I mean?
I do. So dopamine is what is ultimately the instant satisfaction, is that dopamine rush. But then on the other side of the dopamine rush is the realization that you just blew $300.
Which is, I mean, it depends what you can afford, right? Like, say you wins $50. If your average wins $50, if you lose 20 or 30 punting, it's stupid, but you can get over it quickly. It's a mistake that it's almost worth it, because if it wasn't worth it, you wouldn't keep doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think the worth it is that you're getting a dopamine rush. That's why I think there's a lot of things we all do repeatedly that isn't in our best interest, but because there are physiological rewards, the reward system is set up to make us think, oh, this feels good, at least in the moment.
It's like anything. It's like thinking, I'm meant to quit smoking, but I'd really like a cigarette right now. I know it's bad, but it feels good. And it's also like just thinking, you know what it is? I've got some diet food in the cupboard, but how good would it be to have a Big Mac? Like, how good would it be? Like, I'm really hungry. How good would a warm Big Mac taste? Yeah. And the answer is really good. And sometimes it'll be as good as you thought, and sometimes it'll be just a little bit cold and under par.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. So overtrading
Also
to stay
regress.
stimulated is, you know, do you think that is something you engage in? Do you find yourself sometimes overtrading just because it's better to be trading than
Yeah.
not trading?
Terribly. And you can tell yourself the lie that more market screen time is good for you and it's healthy.
Mm.
But really what you're doing is just gambling on
Yeah.
low odds setups. And it's easy to lie. It's easy to lie and say, oh, no, it's screen time. I'm watching.
Yeah.
But you're watching nothing. You're watching tickers that aren't doing anything. You're watching a quiet day.
Yeah.
You just haven't had your needs met.
Yeah.
I mean, for my strategy, honestly, for the specific strategy that I play, I've got hundreds, if not thousands of samples of data that tell me to stop trading at 10:30.
Wow.
Yet you'll still see is at the computer at 11, 12, 1, 1:32. That's where a lot of the biggest losses come from.
Wow. So what stops you from just stopping at 10:30 now?
Just pure love of this, pure love of it. Just the pure love of what's going to happen next. Can I make more money? Can I equal or better a best month?
Well,
can I
if
make
you
back the red month?
Couldn't you potentially, if you love it so much, allow yourself to still watch but not trade after 10:30?
I mean, that's like putting a burger in front of a hungry person.
So what you just spoke to around needs, I'm, as you can imagine, completely on board with the fact that if we aren't getting our basic needs met in our day-to-day lives, then we are going to seek our needs in the market, in trading. And that's when I find that maybe the need gets met, maybe if you're very, very, very lucky, but it's going to be met at a high cost. A high cost to yourself. And I don't just mean monetarily, but that could also be the case. So I am of the opinion that most traders need to get connected to what their needs are so that they can do a better job at getting their basic needs met outside of the market so that they don't get tempted to go the high cost route of getting those needs met in trading.
I totally get that. The only issue is with that is that there's no greater for someone who loves trading, like for someone who purely loves it, there is nothing greater than nailing that trade. Like there's nothing greater, nothing compares.
Yeah.
It's like Sinead O'Connor, like nothing compares.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Nothing compares.
But if nothing compares to that, if that is so incredibly satisfying, then wouldn't you want to discourage and dissipate in your trading anything that interferes with that happening?
No, because trading is random and it's gambling and it can happen when you least expect it and it can happen when it shouldn't and it shouldn't happen when it should. And that's the game and that's why it's addictive. And that's why the reward is great because your luck was in today.
Yeah.
Because you read the market well today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Luck's on your side. Trading gods are with you on this day. Do you know what I mean?
What would those trading gods' names be, Stephen?
Well, I don't know because they don't come near me. They don't come near me. I'm praying. I'm like, where are you? And you know what they say? They say, we're saved you the last 3 times. We're not saving you this time.
You know that story about where they say the guy's like praying for his there's like a flood coming and he's on the roof of his house and he has a boat come past and the sailor on the boat says, come into the boat. I'm want to get you out of this drowning river. And the guy's like, no, I prayed to God, he's going to save me. And then a helicopter comes by. And the helicopter's like, the water's rising, come up into the helicopter. And he's like, no, I prayed to God, God's going to save me. And then he finally gets to heaven and he's like, God, I thought you were going to save me. He's like, I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. Yeah. What more?
Yeah, no, that joke made it to England as well. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
It's a good one. So, all right. So one of the things that I have seen with traders and them getting their needs met, not because they're necessarily loving the game, but I've seen traders try to find their need for adventure met. So more than one trader has spoken about, especially during the pandemic, They were somebody who really loved adventure. So they would go on, intense hikes on the weekend, or they would do, kind of like any kind of rugged, outdoorsy, adventure-y type stuff. And then they couldn't for the pandemic. And so they noticed in their trading, they were taking way more risk than they had previously taken. And they were kind of curious, like, why am I doing that? And I was, suggesting perhaps because you can't get your need for adventure met in your downtime now, in your weekend time, because of this pandemic, you're trying to get your need for adventure met now in your trading. And once they started to ask themselves before they traded, is this me striving to get my need for adventure met? They were able to dial it back. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's like anything. If you're on hikes and doing things that you love, and then you go to the market thinking, I love life, feel good, you're certainly not going to take a loss that's going to make you feel bad because you feel good. Why would you want to feel bad?
Yeah.
But and it's the same thing as if people have a shitty day, why would you drink 2 bottles of wine and feel even worse the next day? You know it's bad, but you just want to feel something else. And alcohol and trading are the same kind of escape. You're feeling bad, if you're not feeling fulfilled, if you're just thinking another weekend in the house, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a really big trade and it's going to make us feel great. And then I'm going to have a bottle of wine, and you're going to compound bad things.
Yeah.
And
but drinking,
it's kind of obvious, but it's not talked about, right?
I would agree. I think trading, any drinking, like anything we use to numb ourselves is just a flag that needs aren't being met. And that's why I'm such an advocate of people finding out what their basic needs are. And a lot of times too, I see traders getting their need for community met. They're trading because they want to be part of a community. They want to be in a conversation with other traders. So they will take trades that aren't even their setup just because they want to kind of be in have a comrade or two that they can shoot the shit with over Twitter and be like, hey man, I'm on this too. Just so they have that sense of community or sense of tribe, that they're part of the tribe.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, absolutely. And it's the same with sports betting. If you're watching a game of football, soccer, whatever, with some friends, it's mildly entertaining. If you've got a bet on, it's more entertaining. If you've all got the same bet on, that's a fantastic day. That's a fantastic day because you're all in it together. You all win, you all lose. If you all win, you all celebrate. If you all lose,
you're all,
it's one of them things. Let's have another pint. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. You're in that community. You're in that tribe having a similar shared experience. And one of the needs is to know and be known, to see and be seen. And that's what I feel sometimes a lot of traders are getting met in their trades because they're able to relate to somebody else around them. I'm grabbing out my portable needs list. I carry this actually around in my wallet, even though I have a bigger one. This one fits nicely. And this, I just want to show everybody, this is just a small sampling of the needs that all of us have. Like that's how many there are. I mean, and these are the feelings. And this is when I first started to learn this work, I started to look at what are the feelings I'm having. Are they pleasant or unpleasant? And then I would be able to track back what needs did I get met prior to this feeling, or what needs did I not get met? And that's, what I will say to traders is try to start to look at what is the feeling you're having before you potentially overtrade. What is the feeling that's not, that's happening for you? And they'll be like apathy, depression, anger, frustration, a bunch of other unpleasant ones. And then I'll say, well, what happened prior to that moment when you started to overtrade? Well, I had an argument with my girlfriend. Well, I felt frustrated because I was trying to make money through my other side gig and it didn't work out. Like I'll try to get them to nail down what is it that what need didn't get met that precipitated this hard to be with feeling? So they don't numb.
I mean, the ultimate question is, why are you taking this trade? Why are you taking it? If you just can ask that before every trade, why am I taking this trade? It's not the best setup. Well, why are you taking it then?
Yeah, exactly.
Because of this. Why do you want that? Oh, well, because this happened yesterday.
Yep.
You just have to ask why a bunch of times, like a 3-year-old does.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's true. But yeah, the sense of commune, being communal, the sense of being together,
community.
It just roots back to ancient times. I mean, live together or die alone. It's
absolutely.
We're humans. We're animals.
Absolutely. And I think during this pandemic, probably people have experienced loneliness and isolation more than ever before. Even if you're in a house with other people, you can still feel incredibly isolated. You can still feel incredibly lonely. And I think that's one of the things that trading now, because of social media, facilitates. It facilitates a community. Even if you're not in a chat room with somebody, you can see all the traders on Twitter. You can see everybody is, being active, and you're like, wow, I want to be part of that. So anyway, I just think that the concept of being addicted to action is simply because action allows you to be busy as opposed to being still, and sometimes having to then face the hard to be with feelings you might be having.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think definitely if you're doing that, and you realize, like, I've just took a bunch of shitty trades today, I guess I think it's a good idea to ask why and try and fill that void a little bit. Yeah. Or be more proactive and ask why you're taking the trade before you take every trade that day. And look, like, you don't have to do it all the time. You're never going to do it all the time, but at least do it once a week when you notice you're in that cycle, and break the cycle.
Yeah.
Just at least do it once for one day. Yeah. And I'm probably going to write it on my wall after this.
Good.
What is the reason? Why are you doing this?
Yeah. Yep. One of the things I always like to say is, instead of asking why, we use the word what instead. Because what I've noticed is that, and I'm just going to do this to you now, if you're game, like, maybe just close your eyes for a second. And I'm going to say 2 phrases to you. I want you to just notice how it physically feels inside. Do you feel expansion or contraction, Stephen? When I say the first phrase, and then when I say the second phrase. The first phrase is, why did you do that, Stephen? Just notice. You can tell me afterwards. And now I want you to notice what it feels like when I say, what do you think had you do that, Stephen? Okay, so open your eyes. What?
Yeah, I think there's definitely tone differences in your voice. Did you
notice the tone difference?
Hugely. There's that. Yeah, the tone difference more than the words.
So I'd be really curious. I'd be very curious to have the listeners, because I actually strive to say those 2 phrases neutral with the same tone. Yes.
No. I mean, I had my eyes closed, and one felt like I was 6 years old again, and my mother was talking down.
So let me tell you how come it isn't. What if it's not the tone, but it's the word? When we hear the word why, we usually go into a contraction, and we also begin to justify and defend.
Yeah, when the first one, my stomach went in, the second one, my stomach went out. So contraction is pulling in, defense.
Pulling in. Yeah. Yep, totally. But usually the reason behind it is the word. The word why has us start to shut down and defend and protect ourselves and justify. But when we hear the word what, it's more expansive. It doesn't feel like we're being cornered. So what I suggest to people with their own self-talk, and we're talking about now trading, is instead of saying, why did you take that trade, right? Because that's going to elicit you to start to defend and justify. Ask yourself, what is going on that's having you take that trade? It's just a different approach.
Why isn't more interrogative, if that is even a word, but in the what is more it's more remembering something that happened in the past.
It's curiosity. It's curiosity. When we look at why, it feels like an interrogation to ourselves, but when we ask what, we're opening up the door to curiosity, and we're also meeting whatever's going on for us with neutrality.
Yeah, agree.
So instead of posting on your wall, why did you take that trade? Maybe put on your wall, what is that trade about? And the answer could be, because I've seen this one a million times, or I don't know what that trade is about. You may not know sometimes. So then it's like, okay, get curious. What might be going on for me? What needs maybe am I getting met?
For me, I don't get that anymore, because I have a system and a network so ingrained to take the right. I'm lying. I do take the wrong trades all the time. And that's probably the reason why I've been on a bit of a downturn recently, is because I've took the wrong trades. But it's not through being bored. It's through thinking that I've mastered more of the market at a faster pace than I actually have. And they're the kind of two different things.
So if you were to answer that question just for yourself, like what do you think is behind the trades that you've had to draw it down? What do you feel is, what was that motivated?
Thinking that I know the setups that I'm not as familiar with as I'm not. Last year, I traded one setup, tracked a shitload of data on it, traded it like 1,000 times, and pretty much mastered it. Did really well. Like I turned the 600 into 66,000 because I'd mastered that setup, right? But then it was only November, December last year, I started venturing into a second setup and a third setup. But that first setup, I took 4 years to master.
Wow.
And because I'd mastered one, I thought I could quickly master many more very quickly. And then I did, in a way I did. And then that gave us even more confidence. And then it all came raining down. Yeah. And I looked back and thought, you know, you really didn't, you really haven't spent the time learning about those setups like you did the first one. And really, you're winning everything on the first one. All your winnings, 90% are on the first one still. And only 10% are on the second and the third and the fourth. But your size, what you're taking, is even bigger on the ones you don't know.
Wow.
And I've just, like, this is why I told you, like, I took some bad losses, but I'm not too phased, because I'm like, well, do you know what it is? I think I figured out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all okay. It's all fine.
Yeah. I think when we start to get curious and we look about what is going on as opposed to the why, not only do we step into a place of neutrality, but we step into a place, hopefully, that's judgment free. And that's what it sounds like you're doing now. You're not in a place of judging yourself. You're in a place of curiosity and discovery. And that is opening up for you the ability to not be attached to that loss and to that drawdown, and to be able to be like, okay, this happens. I'm going to be neutral about it. I'm going to take the lesson I've learned and I'm going to move on, which is huge. Yeah,
no, I think so. And I think the one thing that I pride myself on, that I've heard a lot of other traders say as well, and I mean, I'll never, like, I've deliberately set up my life so I don't lose everything. Like, I have investments that I can't take out. I've got a house that I can't put on the dealer. Can't be like, take me house. Just give us 100K speed trader, whatever, trade zero. Just take me house and put 100K in. Like, I can't do that. So Good. Like I've designed my life so I can never lose everything. But what I'd pride myself on, which other traders have said, is if I lost everything I had, cash, monetary, I could always just start again and do it again. I could always start from zero and I can always build it back up.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. Just as long as you're learning, as long as you're growing, that's all what matters. You can always start again. You can always lose it and start again.
For sure.
You don't want to. It's backwards way of working. Yep, but if it happens, there's a great comeback story.
Yep. I think the only thing I want to say before we close up is just the concept of staying stimulated. I just find that sometimes traders need to diversify in their ways of getting stimulated. And I'm a huge advocate that some of that stimulation come from nature, come from being outside, whether you're in a cold or warm climate. I think part of the challenge of stimulation these days is that dopamine rush that comes because we're always plugged in. And one of the things I learned from Celeste Headley in her book, Do Nothing, is that the brain is really not set up to work beyond 4 hours, chunk at a time. Our ability to focus, the rest of our brain is compromised when we go beyond that. And one of the things that I see is that which I didn't know before reading her book, was that even social media, our brain receives it as working. It doesn't know it's off. Oh, I'm just going to scroll through Instagram. That is your brain feeling like it's still working. So I'm just a huge advocate of finding out, are you in need of a dopamine detox? If you're overtrading to stay stimulated, is stimulation the default setting for you? And if it is, then how do you reset that? And that could be to come offline, during the weekend, go out in nature, and find, the dopamine detox. You can find that on YouTube. And that would be not being on social media, not being on your phone, just being out in nature, not looking for that huge fix, which is part of why some people now struggle with reading. It's not just because of a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons around that is because it's not going to give you a dopamine hit when you read. So some people can find that to be hard to do.
Yeah, no, I like, honestly, the best reset, it's just, you need to reset sometimes. You have to reset.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most underrated resets is there's a couple, but like fasting is a major reset.
Talk more about that.
I've done 3 weeks. I've been doing it for months now, but I've done 3 weeks in a row of just 60 hours, 2 days, don't eat. Sunday, 5 o'clock stop. Wednesday, 9 o'clock start. You go full Monday, Tuesday without food, drink lots of water. And I just really believe from an energetic perspective, and I've said this before, but if your stomach for the first time in 15 years doesn't have to break down food, doesn't have to do its function, and like 90% of the serotonin's in the stomach, right?
Yeah.
What might it do? Like, what might your brain do and your stomach do together?
It's like a defrag. It's a defrag for the whole system.
It doesn't have to do its exhausting job of burning pizza, McDonald's, KFC, fries, all that crap. Imagine you give it 2 days off. I always feel very centered and very present. That jumping in freezing cold water, freezing ice cold, you get very present. You suddenly know what a real problem is. It's being ice cold, too cold. And then there's also the psychedelic section.
Yeah.
But we'll not dive there.
Well, look, there's a lot out there about the psychedelics. Gabor Mate speaks to it. Tim Ferriss speaks to it. So I would say if you guys are interested in learning more about that, just go look at the people that are talking about it, because there's a lot of different ways it's being addressed and handled today in, controlled settings. So that I'm not a big fan of self-administration, because I feel that when you step into the world of psychedelics, you want to be very cautious and very careful, because without proper support, without having it properly monitored, you could put yourself at great risk emotionally, psychologically, and physically. But I do think it's worth exploring today, but again, in a very, controlled setting with somebody who knows what they're doing, and also to understand you, because your body and your tolerance level could be very different than what if done in a big group setting or you're doing it yourself, could be the wrong dosage amount.
Yeah, but those controlled study results, very promising.
Yes.
Many studies showing it more effective than antidepressants.
Yep, absolutely.
No side effects.
Absolutely.
Very, very promising for those who need.
Gabor Mate has a great movie out there now called The Wisdom of Trauma. And he also talks at length with Tim Ferriss about the use of psychedelics and healing trauma. And that talk is just on the, Tim Ferriss podcast, where he talks at length about Gabor Mate's advocacy of
all of it.
Yeah.
It's all of it: anxiety, depression, trauma, stress. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, we'll bring this clip to a close, but it was a good conversation. I hope you guys found it useful. Please give Stephen and I your feedback. We look at all the comments, and hearing what matters to you, whether we're talking about topics that matter to you, helps us formulate, the topics we talk about. So please let us know. This is part of a 4-part series Stephen Johnson and I are doing. We did trigger happy versus gun shy in the last episode. Today we talked about overtrading to stay stimulated. And the next 2 episodes will be taking trading seriously, what that looks like, what that means for you, and finding or building your edge. So we'll see you in the next episode, and we hope you'll join us there.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Thanks so much for watching and being part of the StocksToTrade community. We wouldn't be here without you guys. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Our goal is to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, but we can't do it without you guys. So if you like what we're doing here and you want to hear more, please, please, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.